Hi, welcome to Lies and Secrets channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching. I doubt I'll ever erase that moment from my memory. The day it all began when I visited a friend's farm. I had retreated to my friend's ranch seeking solace, a respite from life's turmoil. It was early in the morning, the air still fresh. As I roamed the grounds suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a movement. A large black and brown beautiful dog was jacked towards me from across the field. My heart pounded, a mix of fear and bewilderment enveloped me. Should I flee? Yet I stood rooted to the spot, my gaze fixed on the formidable figure hurtling towards me. As the beautiful dog halted mere inches away, I prepared for the worst. Its intense look boring to me, but there was no malice, just a serene, almost knowing aura. The beast's breathing was labored, its sturdy body loomed large, but its amber eyes were surprisingly soft, as if peering into my soul. Without thinking, I extended my hand, hesitantly drawn by the enigmatic allure of this animal. Before I could pull back, the beautiful dog raised a huge paw and presented it to me. A knot formed in my throat as I grasped it, taken aback by the peculiar bond forming between us. "Ah, so you finally met Jack," my friend shouted from afar, snapping me out of the spell. Jack, the ranch's pride, both guardian and part of the family. He continued praising Jack's loyalty, intelligence, and his extraordinary connection with people. But I jackally heard a word. My focus remained solely on the beautiful dog Jack. His presence seemed more profound, his stare unwavering and intense as he looked into my eyes. At that moment, I realized this was no ordinary beautiful dog. A sense of destiny washed over me, suggesting our encounter was far from coincidental. Something profound had altered in that moment, and although I didn't fully grasp it yet, I was certain Jack was already transforming my life in unimaginable ways. We exchanged silent gazes, and his eyes conveyed more than words ever could. Seemed as though his gaze held the weight of years, the accumulation of experiences and emotions captured in a single timeless instant. My heart raced, yet a strange tranquility enveloped me. That's when the realization hit. Jack was more than just a beautiful dog. He was a soulmate. I had never before experienced such a profound connection with an animal. The depth and meaning present in Jack's eyes were astounding. Holding his large paw, felt like we were beginning to truly understand one another, despite the chaos of my thoughts. One thing was crystal clear. My bond with Jack was unlike any I had known before. My friend's voice attempted to draw me back, remarking, "You see, he's not just any friend. He's the kind of friend everyone should have," but at that moment I scarcely heard him. It was just Jack and me, that powerful, elegant, yet enigmatic creature, almost as if he was communicating something to me that I couldn't quite decipher. Yet my mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, caught between the silent messages in Jack's eyes and my own scattered thoughts. That large, charismatic, beautiful dog stood beside me not just as a pet, but as a guide showing me paths I hadn't seen before. In those moments it became clear to me that this unusual yet profound connection with Jack was destined to alter my life. Jack and I stood there eye to eye on the farm, and although I wasn't sure of my next steps, everything seemed to be aligning. Wonders, his presence brought me peace and a newfound confidence. Despite his size, there was no fear, only the comfort of what felt like an old friend, an angel in disguise. Through a while, Jack's gaze intensified, as if he had something urgent to communicate. Yet it was a complexity beyond the grasp of logic or words, encapsulating my emotions. Sometimes maintaining such connections between people is challenging. But in that moment I recognized the profound and unique bond one shared with Jack. He was more than just a beautiful dog to me. He was a companion who washed away my fears and doubts, then subtly turning his head to one side, he took a few measured steps towards me. His movements were slow and deliberate, conveying a calmness that drew me even closer. There was nothing threatening about Jack's demeanor. On the contrary, his presence radiated warmth and instilled confidence in me, breaking down the jackreers within me. Jack was truly a friend, and as he approached, I found myself pondering if such a beautiful dog could really exist. His human-like sensitivity and understanding made me feel incredibly at ease. That moment, I felt stronger and more secure than ever before. Jack was more than just a physically imposing, beautiful dog. He was a source of emotional strength. As time passed, every move he made seemed filled with intention. His steps, his looks when he chose to relax all seemed purposeful, affirming that he was more than just a beautiful dog. He was a protector, a teacher, a friend. Felt as though he was imparting lessons beyond my understanding. Our initial connection marked the beginning of a deepening bond. But little did I know that this magnificent creature was about to lead me into uncharted territories. It was no longer merely a friendly encounter. Seemed as if Jack Ron had a specific mission for me that afternoon. As we strolled through the fields, something shifted. The once calm and playful Jack suddenly froze, his head, lifted ears, perked eyes scanning the horizon. His body tensed, muscles rippling beneath his fur, and the sudden change in his demeanor sent a shiver down my spine. I trailed Jack's gaze but saw nothing beyond the expansive open land, the same serene environment we had enjoyed just moments earlier. Yet Jack seemed aware of something unknown to me. I hesitated momentarily, questioning if I was overthinking. But then, without any warning, Jack sprang into action. His powerful legs propelled him forward with speed and purpose, and suddenly he was darting across the field. I was frozen, unsure of my next move. Should I follow him? My instinct screamed yes, so I quickly started running after him. Jack didn't glance back, he just kept sprinting. His form blur in the cloud of dust. He kicked up by the time I reached the field's edge and watched him vanish into the trees heading toward the small forest on the property. My heart raced with a mix of curiosity and anxiety. I didn't know where he was going or why, but it was evident something was amiss. I exerted more effort to match Jack's incredible speed entering the trees. I could jackally keep him in sight through the dense undergrowth. Then a loud sound, an indistinct voice echoed from deep within the forest. Jack halted, his ears twitch, and he looked back at me. His eyes dark and focused, signaling to stay close and follow. Accompanying Jack, I ventured deeper into the dense forest where the air felt thicker and towering trees whispered with the wind. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the canopy, casting eerie shadows on the forest floor. My heart thumped as I tried to keep pace with Jack, who moved with clear intent. It was as though he felt a compelling need to proceed, and I was prepared to follow. As we delved further, rustling sounds emerged from all directions. Jack, ever vigilant, slowed, his head lowered, body tensed, the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. Something about this place felt unsettling off. Suddenly, Jack stopped, his eyes fixated on something ahead. Following his intense gaze through the dense trees, I spotted a small, dilapidated cabin. It appeared abandoned, with its door jackally hanging on, its hinges and windows covered in grime. However, it wasn't just the sight of the cabin that drew my attention. It was the peculiar faint sounds emanating from within. A blend of curiosity and dread pulled me closer. Jack stood motionless, his gaze steadfast as if he was aware of what lay inside. The sensation on my arms intensified, but I knew I had to proceed. Jack had led me here for a reason. Approaching the cabin, my unease grew. I could hear the creaking of old wood under Jack's weight, but no other sounds filled the air, no birds, no wind in the trees. The silence was oppressive, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. In anticipation, Jack remained unfazed, his eyes still locked on the cabin, advancing with a quiet, determined pace. In contrast, a strange weight pressed on my C*******T. As we neared the structure, we reached the cabin's entrance, and Jack positioned himself in front of the door, poised and alert. I glanced around, nervously feeling the heavy atmosphere closing in. What were we about to discover? I hesitated. But Jackran's brief glance seemed reassuring. His calm demeanor served as a silent promise that everything would be okay, even though I harbored doubts. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open, the hinges groaned in protest, and I flinched inside. Cabin was dark and musty, reeking of decay and long-term abandonment. As my eyes adjusted to the dim light, something inside caught my attention. The movements in the corner of the room drew my attention. Jack, without a moment's hesitation, nudged the door open and stepped inside, and I closely followed. The floorboards creaked under our weight, and I threw a quick glance back at the door, but it was too late to turn back. We were already inside. The room appeared empty, save for some dusty, cobweb-laden old furniture. However, something else caught my eye in the far corner, a faint moving shadow. As I ventured deeper into the cabin, my heart beata quickened, surrounded by a suffocating silence, broken only by Jack's steady breathing and the creak of old floorboards beneath us. The shadow in the corner stirred once more, and this time I saw it clearly, a subtle movement, as if something were shifting slightly. My hand trembled as I reached for the old weathered flashlight in my pocket. Clicking it on the beam sliced through the darkness, illuminating the corner where I had noticed the movement. Initially, it seemed like nothing more than a pile of discarded old blankets, but then something peculiar caught my eye, a small object glimmering faintly in the dim light, piquing my curiosity. I approached it slowly, my mind racing with questions. What could it be? And why was it hidden here in this old forgotten cabin beside me? Jack remained unmoved, his watchful eyes never leaving the area. I knelt down, cleared some of the old garments, and revealed a small wooden C********T. It was ancient, its surface scratched and worn from years of neglect. Yet it seemed oddly out of place in this dilapidated environment. Touching, the lid sent a strange chill through me, and my fingers trembled as I slowly lifted it. The hinges creaked with the effort, revealing inside a stack of old yellowed papers and a small tarnished key. Papers were brittle, curled from age, but the key shone in the dim light as though it had been awaiting this moment. Jack stepped closer, sniffing at the C*******T, his presence shifting the energy in the room. Subtly, it was as if he knew the significance of this C******T, as if he had been aware of it all along. Holding the key, my mind teemed with possibilities. What did it unlock? Was it related to the strange occurrences around the cabin? Carefully, I unfolded one of the papers. It was an old journal entry, legible despite its age. My eyes skimmed the text rapidly until I froze. The entry spoke of a hidden treasure, a secret long buried within the forest and guarded by a loyal protector. The words were cryptic, yet the intent was clear. Something valuable was concealed here, and Jack's presence was not a coincidence. But as I read further, unease settled in my C******T. The journal didn't only mention treasure. Spoke of a curse passed down through generations. The treasure was cursed, and those who sought it were doomed to face grave dangers. The more I read, the more the weight of the warning sank in. Had I stumbled upon something far greater than I could have imagined? Was Jack's loyalty to this place driven by devotion, or was he tasked with protecting something that thought not at me? Yet I couldn't stop reading. Meanwhile, a feeling of presence crept into the cabin, the walls seeming to breathe in the oppressive silence. I looked up from the journal, locking gazes with Jack. His eyes blazed with an otherworldly concern, as if he was trying to communicate something crucial. Clutching the key tighter, I sensed that everything hinged on what happened next. Suddenly, the room grew chillingly cold, the air thick with an unseen presence. Jack, usually composed, appeared highly alert, his ears back, eyes focused on something beyond my sight. As I turned to survey the cabin, my heart pounded. Sensing my heightened anxiety with a shiver, I closed the journal and contemplated everything I had read about the curse, the treasure, and the guardian. What did it all mean? The small C******T now seemed ominous, and the key in my hand felt inexplicably heavier, as if it were connected to something much darker. The journal had mentioned a hidden room, a place where the treasure was locked away, and surely this key opened it. But if the treasure was cursed, what was I about to unleash? A rustling sound behind me stiffened my spine. I spun around but saw nothing. Jack, however, had positioned himself, his body tense, ready for action. His gaze fixed on the dark doorway leading deeper into the cabin. I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening. I was no longer alone in this place. Something or someone was lurking in the shadows. Jack, what's happening? I whispered, but he offered no response, only an unwavering stare ahead. Tension in the room thickened the air, charged with an unseen energy. I realized with a sinking feeling that Jack wasn't just protecting me from a forgotten old secret. He was guarding me against something far more dangerous, something that had been waiting in the dark for a very long time. The floor creaked slowly behind me. I turned my head, bracing for whatever I might find. First there was only darkness, but then a faint movement caught my eye. A figure, a shadowy outline, jackally discernible against the dim light, stood still, observing my breath, hitched as the shadow slowly began to take form. The figure was tall, dressed in tattered clothing, its face obscured by the darkness froze. The journal had spoken of a guardian, a figure who had watched over the treasure for centuries. Was this it, or was it something else entirely? Jack let out a low growl, a deep rumble that echoed through the cabin. He moved toward the figure, his posture rigid, his teeth jacked. The shadow seemed to respond, shifting slightly, its presence growing more menacing. By the second I stood paralyzed, trying to make sense of what was unfolding. But the more I observed, the more I realized this wasn't just a man. It was something else, something ancient. The shadow took a step forward, and as it did, the temperature in the room dropped even further. My breath flogged in the air, and I could see Jack's muscles tense. He was ready to fight, but I wasn't sure what we were up against. Was this curse come to life? Was this the true guardian of the treasure? Jack stepped between me and the figure. His eyes locked on it with unwavering focus. It was as though he was daring it to make a move. In that moment, I knew whatever was in this cabin with us, whatever had been waiting for me, I was not facing it alone. Jack would protect me just as the journal had promised. But the question lingered. What was about to be unlocked? And would we survive? Consequences? The atmosphere in the cabin was thick with tension. Jack stood firm, his body tense, ready for whatever came next. The shadowy figure before us remained silent, its presence overwhelming. The air felt colder, and strange whispers seemed to echo from the walls as if the cabin itself was alive. With an ancient energy, the figure moved slowly, its eyes locked on Jack. It wasn't human. This was something older, something tied to the forest's curse. I realized then that Jack wasn't just protecting treasure. He was guarding something far more important. The figure extended its hand toward Jack. A challenge, Jack growled fiercely, standing between me and the figure. The room seemed to pulse with a heavy energy, as if the final moment was upon us. The challenge had begun, and I wasn't just fighting for treasure. I was fighting for my life. As the final confrontation unfolded, Jack and I stood united against the ancient figure. The air was thick, with the weight of centuries of secrets, and the cabin seemed to pulse with energy. Jack, with unwavering loyalty, defended not just me, but the truth hidden within the forest. In a moment of clarity, I understood that the treasure was never about wealth. It was about knowledge and a curse long forgotten. The figure's presence was a test, one that Jack had been preparing me for all along. The final act of the challenge ended not in violence, but in understanding. Curse was broken and the forest was freed. Jack's loyalty and bravery had not only saved me, but had also revealed the truth. As we left the forest, the bond between us had grown beyond words, unspoken yet unbreakable. It wasn't just a beautiful dog I had met that day. It was a protector, a guide, and a .My story ends here. If you feel that this story is meaningful and brings useful lessons, please like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thanks.